Victory to love, the love inside your heart. Victory to the light that shines in your mind.
Namaste. Hi, welcome to the Shaman and the Mermaid. We're in our favorite little park just outside of Denver. This is where we come to look for owls and hang out with the cottonwoods and talk to the elders. And we're sitting by the river right now. This is your full moon month report. We're kicking off on August 22nd, which is the second of two Aquarius full moons. So this is a blue moon, or an astrological blue moon. And we're taking you all the way through to September 20th for the Pisces full moon. And we were kind of excited to look at this report. There is some interesting energies to start it off, and then it kind of gets pretty groovy, I guess would be a nice word for it.
The sun is moving into Virgo on the same day of the full moon, so happy birthday to all the Virgos. And so that kind of flavors the energy for this next month time as well. And Virgos, one right here, his birthday's in this month time. Virgos like routine, they like structure, they like to have things in order, you know, T's crossed and I's dotted, very organized, as well as detail oriented. And Virgo is also about the body, taking care of our physical health and well-being, emotional health and well-being, and spiritual health and well-being, as it's all part of the whole self. And so the focus perhaps for part of this month is to get some of those routines in order, and it falls right, of course, when school's getting back into order. We just took our oldest son to his new dorm, starting college at the University of Wyoming, and you know, getting all the things in order for him. So very Virgo energy getting started, and as many of you probably are experiencing some of that yourself. Summer's winding down. We can see on the trees that there's little yellows and the cottonwoods starting to come in, some of the aspens turning. And so that's an indication that it's time for some more routine. And that brought us to our theme for this time, which is a Buddhist saying, and it's chopping wood, carrying water before enlightenment, and chopping wood, carrying water after enlightenment. And I think the gist of that quote is saying that always and forever we will have these ebbs and flow where we work and we're householders and we get into our routine. Then we'll have these spurts where we go through the portal and have connections to source and spirit, and we have creative outbursts, and we feel kind of that ethereal realm coming in, and then back to the routine. We do the laundry, we have to, you know, make the beds and get all the things, all of our ducks in a row, and maybe you'll see some ducks floating by here on the river. There's quite a few out here today. But that's kind of the energy right now, is we sometimes feel like we want to get to an end game where everything is utopian. And so if we just work hard, we'll get to that, you know, big, beautiful place where we get to have permanent vacation. But that's not the life. The life is packed full of duality and will constantly ebb and flow through these different forces of nature. So hard times, hardships, challenges, difficulties, or the mundane of the routine. And then we have these pockets where we have bursts of enlightenment, we come into higher consciousness, we have, as I said, creative outbursts. And so this is a gentle reminder to kind of let yourself navigate with that river flow and weave with it, as opposed to trying to just beeline for some kind of utopian endgame. The first part of this month has some challenges in it. So the chopping wood, carrying water part is at the beginning of this month. And then towards the end of the month, we have some harmonious aspects that allow us to move into some of that more higher consciousness aptitude or creative energy spurts that I've been mentioning. So we'll kind of break that down a little bit, not to go into too many of the aspects, but to give you some idea of what days have stronger influences than others and why. And we'll start off right at the beginning on that 22nd of August with the Aquarian Full Moon and Sun in Virgo. What do you have on that?
Well, this is the second of 2 full moons in Aquarius. The other one was a month ago and happening at the end of July. And so whenever there are 2 full moons in the same sign, it's like a repeat of an energy or a recheck in. I think I used the analogy last time like a fermata in music, where you hold the energy there for a while because it's important to hear it. And the Aquarius theme we took on was about liberation, awakening, connecting to the soul self, and learning from the genius of your own soul. The function of Aquarius, and I'm going to use an analogy from psychology from Carl Jung, is an iceberg. Above the waterline you have 5% of the iceberg. Below the waterline is 95% of the iceberg. The part above the waterline, if we're now talking about you, is your ego or persona, or who you show up this lifetime. Your gender, your age, your personality, who you think you are. Below the waterline is your soul energy, and it's 95% of who you really are. And to continue with that analogy, the ego includes what you know, what you don't know. Like, for example, you may know there's calculus, but you don't know how to do calculus. That's a known unknown. And then the soul realm is you don't even know what you don't even know. And Aquarius's job is to bring the soul awakened to the ego. And those are revelations. You've all had them at some point in your life, like, whoa, mind blown, I didn't even know that before. You've all had those moments. And then after that moment, you're like, and it was always there all the time, right in front of me. And doesn't everybody else see it? Because it's right there. That's the way that most people would hope that Aquarius operates. And that usually happens when we are in alignment with our soul. We're being dharmic with our choices. To get back to the Virgo theme, that same day the sun moves into Virgo, along with all the things that Katrina said, Virgo also has to do with free will. Do you have it or don't you? How do you use it? Do you know the power of yes and no? One who is initiated into the Virgo or Virgin energies of ancient times were those who had the power of knowing yes and no. And they were aware what awoke in their consciousness. If you're not aware of that, or you resist what the soul is showing you, the other side of Aquarius, it will still show you the revelation of the soul, but it's a whump.
Ouch, spankings. On that same day of the full moon in Aquarius, where there's illumination for these ahas and epiphanies, the big planet Jupiter is conjunct the moon. And Jupiter's energy is to hold the expansive, or take it even bigger, or expand it out. It's the grand teacher, the guru. And so on that particular day, August 22nd, there's an added bonus of letting that have a big picture perspective of things as the sun moves into Virgo. So the way I kind of couple all of that together is that we could take that 30,000 foot view like the eagle and look at our lives and start putting some of those systems into place to get ourselves organized, to set the routine, to get things kind of structured and back into order after maybe a frivolous or carefree summer that we've experienced so far. Especially, I know we've had a lot of camping. We were able to get to Mexico for a week before we got our son off to school, and a little trip out to Washington. So we've been going, and the house has kind of gotten out of order a little bit. This morning, before we came to do the filming, I was running around a little frantic because I needed to have my ducks in a row. I was feeling that need to put systems back into order because the summer has kind of let things get a little lackadaisical. So that particular kickoff of Virgo energy with the Jupiter moon, full moon conjunction is a great time to like sit back and say, okay, what are we going to do now going forward? How are we going to, chop our wood and carry our water? And then also, we mentioned this first part of the month has a few more challenges to it. And we see it in the world on the collective level with the Afghanistan situation, heart-wrenching. Our friends in Haiti with another turbulent destruction to their piece of land there, and it's, you know, we feel this in our collective hearts, and we feel the collective grief with all of us, and there's this angst, and it almost burgeons on anger. Like we can feel our own energy bodies getting irritated and riled up, and we want to do something about all of this distress, but we don't really have a real strong individual way to go in and do anything to help. So we sit with the grief of it. And part of this is in play with the Pluto and Eris square that's been ongoing since January 2020 and will carry through until October of 21. But it keeps getting exact, like 5 times throughout that year plus of time, it's going to have exact points. And on August 22nd, it has its 4th of its 5 exact points hitting that particular day. So there could be some strife and struggle. Do you want to speak to Pluto Eris square?
And it's August 27th.
What did I say?
I think 22nd, but that's okay.
Oh, I meant 27th, sorry.
This is the 4th of 5 perfect squares between Eris and Pluto. And we have mentioned Eris before. As a quick refresher, Eris is a dwarf planet, and she has a 5,000 year orbit around the sun. She's way out there. She is currently in the sign of Aries, her brother. Eris is the female goddess of war, Aries is the male goddess of war, and her energy is very similar to her brother. But it's on the feminine side, and so she is the feminine warrior. In the yoga tradition, it would be like Kali, or if we go to the Egyptian tradition, it's the lion-headed goddess Sekhmet, who's the giver of justice and the corrector of errors. And Eris, if we use the Greek translation, she's the goddess of discord and war and manslaughter and disharmony and forgetfulness and famine and strife. Sounds like 2020-21. But her job is not to necessarily create that. She points out anywhere we're out of line and that energy shows up. So she's not necessarily the carrier of it, but she's the illuminator of where it is. And when she comes in, she's saying, look where things are way out of balance. And she's squaring Pluto. And Pluto is the god of the underworld, of the soul, and it's like Shiva energy. If we go back to the yogic, it's the creator and destroyer. And so Eris, the goddess, the feminine goddess of pointing out where the ego self is far out of field, greed, lust, power, destruction of Mother Nature, is squaring into the power of Pluto, the soul that says things must be destroyed and created to realign with the soul. And they keep butting heads 5 times, and this is an exact one, and so the intensity has been warming up and probably will be very intense around August 27th and 28th and all the way through the rest of the year. And just keep an eye out for this. What do you do with it? Well, number one, check yourself. You know, we always want to look externally and be like, it's the politicians, it's the policies, it's that country, it's these people.
It's the Democrats, it's the Republicans, it's my parents, it's my religion, blame, blame, blame.
And Eris ultimately says, you fight the battles within you. You got to be like Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita and take on your own battle internally. And if everybody works on themselves, then there's not a problem.
If everyone chops their own wood, carries their own water, then they get to step into that own revelation, their own enlightenment. And with everybody doing that, we all have our chores done and we get to have that grand time together in the middle. And I have to just say, as he was speaking, one of the owls just flew across the river, and I got to see it, and I was like, I wanted to turn the camera and show you, but they're swift.
I missed it.
It
I heard
was
him.
good.
Well, the day, did you want to say anything else about Eris?
I was just...
Okay. And then this is the second of the more challenging aspects. The next day, August 28th, is Sun square the nodes. And I'll let Katrina talk about this, but I'll just set it up. The South Node is in Sagittarius, truth, truth-seeking, faith, belief, trust. And the North Node is in Gemini, duality, walking between both worlds, different perspectives.
And so, Sun squaring these nodes, the Sun is your outward representation. It's how you show up in the world. And you're feeling this pull on with the nodes squaring, wanting to maybe go more towards your human side, or maybe you're feeling this call to check in with the dualities. You know, this is a duality day where we're feeling one thing and the other thing, and who am I and where do I belong? And our existence is duality. We have night and day, we have masculine and feminine, we have solar, lunar. It's all duality. We have to learn how to navigate between these two realms. And part of the duality is that we're human beings and we're spirit beings. And we have put the focus that we are human beings first. And in truth, we're spirit beings having a human experience, and we need to flip it back to that awareness or consciousness. And I feel like part of all of this duality, the chopping wood, carrying water, and then enlightenment, and then chopping wood, carrying water, another way to say the duality, is so that we can learn how to navigate walking in both worlds. And it is so challenging, especially in the 21st century with all the modern amenities that distract us and pull us away. I mean, how much of your day do you let yourself sit without something filling your head? Meaning the television or Facebook or Instagram or us or your parents or your kids or whoever, where you just find solitude out in nature or in the quiet of your own home with no sound, and you only have your own thoughts to battle, and then you get that mind stuff to even cease its chatter just enough that you can be perfectly balanced in that sattvic place, the harmonious balance between the two worlds, and hold space there. Our modern existence doesn't allow for that too much. We don't carve out the time. We're too much in our human experience and not enough in our spiritual experience. And so this squaring of the sun with the nodes is saying, you know, pointing out, like, you are in this in-between, and find the middle space where you find sattva and land in that equanimity or composure of the mind, where you can hold your awareness as if you were holding the sun and the moon in both your hands, and that you can balance them evenly. I feel like this is a push for us to go back into walking in both worlds. That we are householders, that we do have chores, that we do have obligations and bills to pay and work and all the things, the responsibilities, but we are also spiritual beings, and we are connected to all that is. And that the breathing, living earth that we walk on is trying to send us messages, as are the stars and the heavens and all that is above, and that we need to quiet our mind and listen to this, tune into it, and get that nourishment. It's like when we quiet our mind, it's like going into the gas station and filling up with gas. For our car, it's the same for our soul. When we quiet and stop and listen and calm. So that 27th of August is saying, poke in on that. If you're not doing it, create the space to do it. And there's that old saying, if you don't have 5 minutes to meditate, you need 30. So just, you know, check in with yourself. Are you carving out time and space to turn everything off and be with you? To remember who you are and to listen to your soul self, to that iceberg that's under the water that's messaging us. And so then we move into the new moon, and then this is when the energy changes, where we can put down the bucket and the axe for a little bit and just, you know, revel in the energies that are bringing forth from the cosmic above for that enlightenment piece. That everything is really flowy for that, and I'll explain. First is a trine with Uranus on the Virgo new moon. I didn't mention what new moon. It's a Virgo new moon. So the sun is in Virgo, and whenever we have a new moon, that means the moon has come around and met up with the sun. So sun and moon together in Virgo, and so like both balancing, it's saying your masculine and your feminine energy are asking you to be in that balanced routine of things. Like really take a look at that too. And we use new moons for setting intention and we start a new month cycle on those new moons, so it's a good day to do a little ceremony and set intention for coming into the fall, because the next time we come around it would be fall at that time. And so lots of things are happening in the form of trines. Remember, trines are harmonious energies, and Michael, you can explain all these awesome trines on the, what is it, September 6th. Keep that day in mind, September 6th.
The sun and the moon will both be trining the planet Uranus, and Uranus shares the same energy that I described about Aquarius: awakening, enlightenment, genius, the soul coming into the awareness of the ego. Uranus is also retrograde right now. It went retrograde just before this report started, August 19th, and it will be retrograde all the way until January 2022. And so when a planet is retrograde, it means that energy is moving in a different direction. It's changing our awareness or our relationship to it, and it's louder or more prevalent in the field. And so Uranus's energy is more forward in the field right now. Awaken. Turn into your own genius. Get the 30,000-foot view of what's going on. Don't get caught in the minutia of the details all the time. Spread your wings out and open up your heart. And it's also non-attachment, which is another Buddhist thing. And non-attachment, I'm sure you all have a connection to it, but it doesn't mean that you don't have feelings or that you don't connect to your personal self, but it means that you don't take things personally, and that you don't attach your own perspective onto the other thing, and that you're able to know the difference between me and the other thing. That's different from detachment. Non-attachment is, I have feelings, I care, but I won't take it personally. And so Aquarius is about that non-attached piece. And this harmony between the trine of the sun and the moon is be in your masculine and feminine power and awaken to your more higher self, and do it in an unattached way, like be the observer, be the scientist, be the someone who is gathering data and putting it together and being like, how curious, how interesting. Let's check this further before making a judgment. And then Mars is also trining Pluto. Mars is the ego, personal self. Pluto is the soul. And so this is the tip of the iceberg aligning with the iceberg. It's the willpower of the soul moving through the ego, as opposed to the ego trying to push through the soul. That's a good thing. Mm-hmm. Yay. And the last trine is Venus trine Jupiter. Venus is love and self-values. Jupiter is faith and belief and trust and going for it. And so it's saying you have trust and faith and belief in yourself, and you have trust and faith and belief in the universe. And to put your eggs in that basket. Go forward with, having high vibration, love, and having something you want to achieve and go for, as opposed to being caught in the weeds of the moment, like what's going on. Jupiter says, look to the horizon. Have somewhere that you want to journey to. It's worth it. It's the hero's journey.
That's all on the Virgo new moon, September 6th. So that, that's that right after Labor Day. And to me, right after Labor Day is when routine really kicks in. That's the last hurrah of the summer, the last 3-day weekend for a while. And so it arrives perfectly timed, that new moon, with all these harmonies of really setting ourselves into motion. Our high self is in alignment with our little self. We've got support of that faith and spirit in our loving way with Jupiter and Venus. And Uranus is the revolutionary energy with our masculine and feminine, all in harmonious flow together. So I'm excited about September 6th. Keep that on your calendar and radar. And then just after that, on September 10th, Venus will move into the sign of Scorpio, which I think is pretty sexy, but it can also be kind of debaucherous. Again, Venus is that romance, love. It's also values, it's your, it can be finances. Scorpio is money, transformation, it's the merging of energies, it's the, it can also be the death of something. So, maybe a part of you that's no longer necessary or in high vibration can have that resolve at this time. And then, I think I called it sexy because Scorpio is a sexual energy sign. It has a lot to do with coupling and coming together and that merging. And then Venus is that romantic love and love of self too. So just after that September 6th, you know, all those trines giving us a big boost of confidence on a soulful spiritual level, then we can just go walk the catwalk a little bit after that and just be proud of yourself and be who you are and shine bright. And that's on September 10th. And then the sun will trine Pluto on September 16th, towards the end of the report. And you want to speak to Sun trine Pluto?
Yeah, this is a what we call a third quarter trine, or the second of two trines. The sun trined Pluto back in spring when it was in Taurus, and now it is when it's in Virgo. And so it's sort of a completing of a cycle. And Pluto being the soul energy, things that are transforming, rebirth, renewal, and the sun is your personal self. And so this is kind of the last quarter of a transformational cycle, and it's hitting a harmonious point. The first trine, while it's harmonious back in spring, it's not as clear as what's happening or what's transforming or where you're going. This one has a lot more clarity and groundedness, and because the sun and Pluto are both in earth signs, Pluto is in Capricorn, sun is in Virgo, this is like a deepening of the roots, a maturity of this transformation cycle. Again, this is really harmonious. As long as you're doing the chopping wood, carrying water, and you've done your work, and you've ebbed and flowed through these past 9 months, this is the end of a fruition cycle, like a birth of yourself, then this is going to be a good time of understanding where you're transforming to. You'll see gains, you'll see progress with the work that you've done, and you'll feel good about it.
So, chopping wood, carrying water, first half of the month, and then we come into enlightenment, or the flow and ease of things in the second half of the month. We wrap up coming to the full Pisces full moon, and that's where we'll pick up again next time with you on September 20th, and that takes us to the fall equinox as well. And on that full moon, Mercury will be trining with Jupiter. So we kind of conclude with a nice flow on into fall, and we'll bring you back into the report at that time. But we'll end by reminding you that chopping wood and carrying water, or in other words, doing our due diligence and our taking on our responsibilities, is not to be a punishment, and that sometimes we can take those mundane, routine obligations or responsibilities and make them lovely, make them part of our well-being, and look at them as opportunities to bring structure and security, or a sense of belonging and connection into our life. And then when the flow comes into that ease, that it's not just forget about everything and do nothing, but to use that easy time to sit in that higher self, that higher consciousness, to cultivate awareness, so when we come back into chopping wood and carrying water, we have better and bigger solutions on how to facilitate those more heavier responsibilities, to make them a little bit more efficient or more manageable, a little less challenging. So I guess that's where we leave off, and we'll see you on the next report. Hope you have had a great summer. Until then, namaste.
Victory to love, the love inside your heart. Victory to the light that shines in your mind. Earth, sky and stars, 10,000 suns shine within us all. Give praise to the one. Victory to love, the love inside your heart. Victory to the light